what predictions have you made using the systems and the data that you're looking at that have surprised even you?
Well, first I'll take a quick step back and give credit to the creator and founder of Mind Games. So we're in like a partnership with each other. So I'm kind of the kind of public facing person, and Brian Rogers, who's also pretty public too. He's the creator of Mind Game. We both worked at big tech and saw how big tech did things, which is they take billions of signals across various sources, oftentimes their own walled gardens, to build sophisticated models that can predict outcomes, right? And just to TLDR, like what we're trying to do is we just know there's better data out there to kind of ascertain what's going to be successful or not successful, at least at the global level. So that all aside, table setting wise, let's just go into the first thing that I was like, last year, Summer Game Fest was a bit of an anniversary for us. We did a bunch, we tracked over 500, I think, games across all the SGF events, new games announced, etc., and stood out of there. So Call of Duty won last year. No surprise. If we went out and said Call of Duty's biggest games, like, okay, yeah, and the moon sets and rises, etc. And I'm like, okay, but what's the more interesting one? There's two that stuck out to us. First one was Black Myth Wukong. Now, this game was obviously a success. I think a lot of things are going to fast follow it now. This is something that was just popping after Summer Game Fest last year. But I could explain why that game would be big. I'm like, well, yeah, it's a Chinese AAA quality game. It's going to have a massive audience in the East. This makes sense to us. The one that really stuck out to me that was like, really, was Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Now, just to take this apart, like, first off, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero was not the first Dragon Ball inspired fighting game, right? Not even the second or third, right? So there are plenty of Dragon Ball fighting games out there right now. So it's not first to a mass market of people that are really excited about this game. So, like, what about this game really is finding an audience? And it's really, I think it captured the spirit of the anime show and in being able to recreate moments, which is what they did in the marketing assets. You start watching all the YouTube videos that were getting tens of millions of views, you could realize, like, oh, they're telling the entire Cell Saga in the fighting game. That's an interesting angle. So out of that, we were like, this is going to be a hit in the fall. And we were all basically telling people this. And they're like, no, fighting games outside Mortal Kombat don't do more than 10 million players. And out comes Dragon Ball, and it was one of the top 3 games last fall, right?
Wow.
And a massive hit for, I believe, Bandai is the one that published it. But, like, great game, great use of IP, found an audience, blew past what would be expected TAM. So that's like the first game that like gave me pause and was like, is this game really going to be a hit?
Right.
It ended up being a hit. And I'm like, well.
So that was the first one where you were like, okay, I see the model predicting something. I don't know. And then it went, and then you were like, okay, all right, the model's working.
Yeah, I know, exactly right. You're like, I think this will be a hit, and we'll hedge it a bit and say the data so far looks like it's got some heat behind it, but things could happen. And even though our model is like, no, this game is going to be a monster hit, you should just buy the model. But you start putting your own real world lens on it. I would say your own bias of what I actually play, what I see people around me play, how many backpacks do I count at my kid's school? That sort of like real world, like kind of biases that people all find themselves in that tell me, no, this is not as big as I think it's going to be. And ultimately, because there's other Dragon Ball games, this kind of I kept going back to. There were other Dragon Ball games to kind of proxy the TAM towards, and you're like, oh, it's going into a market that already exists. What could it possibly do new and different to find that audience? And it definitely did.
Okay, continuing on. So that was the big surprise for you last year. That your model called it. What about more recently?
Oh, recently, I would say I think popular. Well, I'll go 2. Can I give you 2 answers on this one?
Yeah.
One that's being written about case studies. We'll get a Game of the Year nomination, I'm sure, at the Game Awards in the winter. But it's definitely Clair Obscure. And this, again, goes back to Summer Game Fest last year. So to all those people who are listening to this podcast in July, SGF matters for things that break through. And so we did a top 25 list of games that broke through out of SGF internally. And on that list, passing some, I won't say who, but passing some notable RPG franchises, let's say, was Clair Obscure. And I was like, huh? What's this? First time game from a first time developer team. I was like, this can't be real. But after what we saw in the fall last year, and into Q1, I'm like, gotta trust the model. This will be a hit. So we started publicly saying, like, come April, watch out. This Clay Obscure game is going to definitely find an audience. It's definitely going to be a hit. It's got some heat behind it, et cetera, et cetera. And that really born to be true, which is, I think, great for the gaming industry to see these things happen. It's taking what I think people thought were dead genres, like, oh, who wants to play a turn-based RPG? I guess, like, Baldur's Gate kind of shifted that thinking a little bit, but, like, really a turn-based RPG. No. And who wants to play... And it's not even a JRPG. It's a French spin on what a JRPG is. So it does feel very, like, obviously informed and inspired by the tropes of the JRPG genre. But if you play it, there are some definite things where it's like, first 20 minutes of that game, you're like, well, this is bleaker than games I've played in this genre out the gate. Like, there's some heavy themes going on here. And it's definitely feels very French. You put in 10 minutes of that game, you're like, yeah, this definitely feels of the nation France and the culture that is French. And I think it's great for all those things, right? So seeing it succeed was like another quote unquote surprise. But like, this is what we tell people, like, there are not surprises in the industry for us. Like, we don't think there are surprises. There are very few and far between. Like, the surprise is when Oblivion launches with about 2 weeks notice. Like, it gets leaked that they're going to launch Oblivion as a remastered. You see some percolation happening, and it shoots out of a cannon and becomes what we define as an S-tier game in our system. Like, okay, yeah, that does happen. That is a surprise because it wasn't expected to drop when it did. But those are very, very few and far between. Like, you have Oblivion remastered, you have Apex Legends. These are unicorns. They are not the norm. The norm is developers out years in advance, building community, building awareness for the game. Maybe they find a publisher who then also kind of starts doing that stuff, right? And it's not just like things shoot out of a cannon out of nowhere. Going back to Black Myth, they spent years hyping that game. They spent years putting out assets, and then they're being called vaporware by everyone. Like, this cannot be real. This is all vaporware. And then they finally released the game, and it was real. Kudos to them and kudos to all the work they did, but to think that they just did it out of nowhere, it's like, it really underserves the actual effort they put into this and how much they were going out there, how they were very forthcoming with the assets that they had at the time, and like building up interest and demand and hype that ultimately kind of yielded a huge player base. Same could be said about Clair Obscur. Same thing, right? Yeah. They were out there earlier than people expect. And doing all the things you need to do to kind of build an audience.
What's interesting about Clair Obscur too is it would be easy to go, well, Black Myth Wukong ties into Eastern mythology really well, and they're like, it did have all that run up to, and Dragon Ball Z, they've got a big IP. Clair Obscur, like, it's a brand new IP.
It's clearly made by people who know how to make games. Let's say that. So ex-Ubisoft people, which may be something more interesting to talk about Ubisoft that maybe won't go on. But like, you let a bunch of clearly really talented people go who really wanted to make this style of game. And when they got the freedom to do so, they found an audience that was hungry for this specific type of game, which is amazing. So like what I was saying at the kickoff of, our conversation, there's more opportunity to be more creative than I think people think there is. Like, you can build something completely unique and amazing and like find an audience. I think there's more room to do that now than there ever was before. I just think on the flip side, there's just more competition to do that than ever before too. So it's like the flip side of the opportunities. Ultimately, there's more opportunity, there's less and more competition, right?
Yeah. So you were saying there was two that you want to talk about. Clair Obscur was one. What was the other one?
Well, I guess it's out, but like, and I think we were very. This is one where the model was telling us consistently, like, we're looking at June and we're like, oh, Mario Kart World, and we're looking at Death Stranding 2, and we're looking at Dune Awakening, and the thing that was above all of them in interest and demand, granted it's kind of already out already, but was coming out with a paid version at like a low price point, was Deltarune, Toby Fox's thing, right? And I'm like, is this really going to blow up the way our model says it's going to blow up? And I would say right now the answer is yes. We put out some content yesterday, our first newsletter, just diving into Deltarune, because it's something that the industry's not even talking about. Everyone is so focused on these shiny AAA things. And to be fair, I get it. I, too, am going to sign off early on Friday, pick up my Switch 2, and play some Mario Kart all weekend because I'm really excited about this game and the new device. So I'm not immune to that like hype train, but there is a huge swell of community behind Toby Fox, broadly speaking, but Undertale and Deltarune that is there to play this game. So coming out of the Switch 2 event, the top game coming out of Switch 2 event was Mario Kart, which I believe its players will be tied 1-to-1 to Switch 2 sales. I think everyone that buys a Switch 2 will buy a Mario Kart game, right? So it's a 1-to-1 piece, right? But if there was what the second most successful game coming out the gate for Switch 2 going to be, I think it's going to be Deltarune. And I think it's because, so what are they doing that's really interesting, or like where I think they'll be successful? They're launching on every device, PS4, PS5s, Switch 2, Switch 1, Steam. They're going to be on everything. So they're maximizing their TAM there. 2, they have spent years with the first chapter, the second chapter, building this audience to now say it's paid after this point. I think while some of that community got really upset about that, I think the transparency that Toby had with that was pretty honest. Like, look, I'm going to ask for this once, and I will give you every piece of chapter moving forward. But I think I've proven myself with what we've done so far to basically kind of warrant this ask from my community. And I think he's going to be very successful in that. And like what I would take away from that is community, and communication, right? He builds community by communicating to his community, right? Because like, as far as I can tell, I don't think he's spending $0 in paid. Like he's not out there buying Twitch's leadership or leaderboard off the top streamers to play Deltarune all weekend. No, that's not the game he's in. He's spending $0 to market this game, which I think will bore him more ARPU per player he gets in there than otherwise would be. And it's great. So it's great to see for Deltarune. And like I think just seeing what it was doing on SteamDB, which is why we rushed our newsletter out earlier than we wanted to. It was already trending at 133,000 concurrents on Steam.
Man, last I saw it was 113, so it's already gone up past that. Wow.
Yeah, he was the number 1 new game on Steam as of today. Unsurprising. And so, yeah, it's and that's just one platform it'll be played on, right? It's we always say don't overanalyze what you see on Steam, because Steam is very just focused on a very specific type of player, which is, if you were to look at all the top trending games on Steam over the last 3 years, like a game called Banana is like one of the top like 5. You're like, well, did Banana sell more than Elden Ring? No. So take Steam and analytics as an input, but not the full story of what's happening in the ecosystem.
Does this sound familiar? You're in a leadership role at a game studio. Everyone is busy working. No one has any time. But the actual game itself isn't in a good spot. Maybe it's the tech. Maybe it's the lack of a validated prototype. Maybe it's that every person seems to have a different idea about what we're trying to build. But you've got a job. There are reports to send, meetings to schedule and facilitate, the occasional season of performance reviews to go through. And everyone is always so busy. When you step back, it makes you wonder if everyone is just going to keep slowly walking towards the abyss until the project or game fails. Is this what it means to be a leader in games? In tech? To endlessly repeat the same sequence of meetings without really moving the needle? To spend hours trying to get Jira tickets and dashboards where they should be? To pretend that everything is fine when you know deep down it really isn't? It doesn't have to be this way. You can make a difference. You can help your team and game succeed, but sometimes you need a bit of help to get there. I've started a game dev leadership accelerator. It aims to level up leaders who see opportunities to make a difference but don't know how to capitalize on them. We'll walk through what it means to lead well and give you tools to understand your organization's challenges and implement changes to overcome them. Game dev is hard. Knowing how to lead will give you an edge. It will still be hard, but you'll be ready to tackle it. If you're interested, let me know below. Hit the link. I hope to see you in the accelerator because I believe better leaders will help teams make better games, and I look forward to someday playing what you create.